This one takes place in the 1980s, about a 29-year-old woman. We'll call her Emily. Now, Emily's life was perfect. She had a good job, she had a loving and supportive family, and she had Jeremy. At least her life seemed perfect until the night the love of her life went missing.
Help me, help me, help me.
Jeremy and his friends Albert and Benji were among a new breed of detectives at the time, paranormal investigators. They lived in the hope that somebody would one day pay them to find spirits, ghosts. And they chose abandoned Mount Eden Hospital as a test case because of its haunted reputation. They knew if they could prove there were spirits there, they'd be rolling in customers. Emily didn't believe in hauntings or any of that guff, so she kissed Jeremy goodnight and said she hoped he and his friends had fun. Little did she realize Mount Eden Hospital was no place for fun. As she'd soon discover, that hospital was a horror show. In the morning, she called his buddies and got some disturbing news. They both chickened out and didn't go to the hospital with Jeremy. They told her Jeremy had gone it alone. There were no cell phones back then, no way she could check on Jeremy, so she called the authorities. When she told the police what Jeremy was up to, the desk sergeant laughed at her, told her to tell her man to get a real job. He went on to say that there was no way he was going to waste manpower looking for an idiot. Wait a day or so, and if he doesn't turn up, call back, he advised. But how could she wait? Jeremy was the love of her life. He could be lying injured in a pool of blood, calling her name. Abandoned buildings can be dangerous. Dangerous or not, Emily took it upon herself to go search for her man. "I'm coming, baby," she mumbled softly. "I'm coming." She arrived at Mount Eden Hospital at sundown. Already the area was filling up with shadows. She found a side door that had been jimmied ajar and figured that was how Jeremy got in. She pulled it open and entered. As she stepped through the warped and rustic doors of old Mount Eden, the world outside vanished. Inside, the air was heavy, thick with the rot of damp plaster and mildew. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, their sickly glow flickering, throwing long shadows that seemed to twitch and shudder. Old wheelchairs and hospital beds lined the empty corridor. She recalled the boys saying they thought the evil energy was centered on the children's ward, D ward. She headed upstairs. When she arrived at the nurse's station, she saw an ancient child's rattle lying in the dark, inches from a workman's lunch pail. The man in the moon face on that rattle gave her the creeps, but Emily couldn't think about it too long because she heard,
Help me,
was that Jeremy calling to her? The voice sounded distorted as if calling through water. "Jeremy?" she called back. "I'm coming." The further she went, the quieter the hospital became. The sound of her feet crunching on debris rang out like screams in her ears. She began to hear things she couldn't explain, a cough, low and wet, from a room she knew was empty. A child's giggle, soft but close, that cut off as suddenly as it began. There was no way there were any children left in that empty hospital. Something wasn't right. The light above the D ward entrance flickered twice and went dark, plunging the corridor into shadow. Only the pale glow of the exit sign at the far end gave shape to the hallway. On the door to the D ward, rust had eaten away at the paint, leaving streaks that looked disturbingly like blood. A single handprint, smeared and brown with age, stained the wall. And then she saw her. A woman robed in white, hovering like a ghost at the end of the corridor. "Come, he's here. He needs you," the ghostly woman in white called. Fear rocketed through Emily, and she knew if she went down that corridor, she'd never return. And with that, Emily began running for the exit. She ran past the empty rooms and the old nurse's station. The ancient child's rattle rolled in front of her under its own volition. She hopped the rattle and continued for the door. Children's laughter rang out behind her, but Emily did not turn to see if anyone was there. She knew that was a trap. She raced down the stairs and up the corridor for the exit. She reached the door, tried to open it, but the door was stuck. It would not budge. She struggled with the door, pulling with all her might as appealing whispers called out to her to return. The voices told her that Jeremy was there and that if she came back, she could rescue him. She knew those were lies. "In the name of the Lord, let me out of here," she screamed. And suddenly, the corridor went silent. She tried the door again and it scraped open. Emily thanked God she was still alive and stepped out into the night air. As she moved away from evil Mount Eden Hospital, she had to accept that there are forces out there we don't know about, we don't want to know about. 2 days later, the police began their search for Jeremy. They never found him. His body was never recovered. They told Emily he probably moved somewhere where deadbeats like him preyed on older women. They told her she was lucky to be rid of him. But Emily knew Jeremy met his demise in Mount Eden Hospital. Some nights before she drifts off to sleep, she can hear his lonely soul consoling her, telling her that perhaps they'll meet again someday on the crossroads.